Alright, so what we had after last video was something that looked kind of like this, more or less. We just had kind of a shell of a car. What I wanted you to do was just to go ahead and finish the shell out, mostly by coming in and kind of extruding these edges down here on the front, just extruding them down and kind of lining them up here and inserting edge loops around the front so that you end up with an entire front, and doing the same thing on the back. And the goal here is to end up with something that looks more like this, like an actual kind of a shell of a car. And if you notice, it's still really low poly. I've got only 230 faces for both sides of the car right now. I haven't put in a whole lot of detail yet, but I'm really just getting the shell. A lot of times students will run into the problem where they try and get something that looks like this. And it looks a lot smoother, it looks cleaner, but it's really too high poly to work with. It's just hard to get in there and add any detail because you've got so many edge loops already. So what we want to do is try to keep it really low poly like this, so that we don't have anything else to mess with. So one thing that I do want to do today, what we need to do is cover a little bit about duplicate special again, something that can make it really useful. And this video I want to go over the kind of the wheel wells or the fenders here, and maybe get into kind of cleaning up the windows. So first thing I'm going to show you is the duplicate special, and we should already know where that is, but I'm just going to come into the front view here and I'm going to delete half of my car. So you'll see I come up to here and the perspective view now, and you can see I've only got half my car, which is pretty normal. You can duplicate it and then scale it out, which is kind of what we want to do. But what's really cool about the duplicate tool, if we come up, we can say edit and duplicate special options, and we only want one copy. We want to scale it in the X direction, I think, and we want to make sure that it's an instance. So we do that, and we notice the X direction was definitely the wrong way. Oh wait, I screwed up. So I want to duplicate special, and I want it to be rotated and scaled in the X direction, -1. There we go. So as before I translated it, this time I want to scale it. I want to make sure that instance is on, and then what we get is we have basically the same thing. We have the two shells of the car now. But what you'll notice, since I've done it as an instance instead of a copy, if I come in here, I have some sort of reflection. So anything I do to this right side here, the same thing will happen on the other side. So if I were trying to start making some lights or something. So that's just the duplicate special with an instance modifier. And then now I can come in and I'm actually going to work on this back fender. I've already kind of shaped the front one a little bit. It's not exactly right, but like I said, right now all we're doing is trying to get a shell and just trying to get edges and faces into the locations where we need them so we can actually modify them. So I'm going to come into the Insert Edge Loop tool, and I'm going to use relative distance from edge on mine. I'm just going to bring it over here, and what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to come in and I'm just going to kind of create a back fender. And that's as easy as just extruding, and I'm going to scale everything down. And all I'm doing with this is just giving myself extra faces to work with. And then I'm just going to pull it off the car a little bit. So I made a really generic, not very shapely back fender. But now I'm going to need to come in and actually start to modify the verts. So I'm going to pull these in just to kind of get rid of the really sharp contour here on the front. And then with the rest of these, I'm just going to kind of shape them out. And if I look on the side view, I can see kind of there's a pretty consistent outline of where they should go. I'm just going to try to follow that outline a little bit. I know my image isn't really high quality, but for the most part I can kind of see the shape that I want, or the shape that I'm going for. So I've got kind of, like I say, a really generic shape going on here. And I've extruded it out. So now if I came in and I smooth previewed it, you can see I'm starting to get a real shape to my fender back here. You'll see there's a little bit of a jut right there, so I want to fix that, and that's going to be kind of hard to do. Probably the only way to do that is just going to be to pull this in a little bit, and then hopefully I can just kind of smooth out that transition. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and just grab this entire interior of the wheel well, and I think I need to pull it out some. And what I should have now, if I smooth it again, is something that looks a little bit more consistent and not quite so sharp. So I've got the wheel well here. I did basically that same process for the front, and because I used the duplicate instance, I've got the same thing on the other side of the car. So the next thing I want to do for this video, just to kind of smooth things up and make it look a little bit more like a car, is I want to just start creating the windows. So I'm going to edit mesh, extrude this up. I'm going to do it twice. Right now all I have to do is come in with these new edges that I've created and snap those to the edges on the car where they're supposed to attach to. I think I've got enough edges. Yeah, so I just snap them in there. And in order to snap, remember you hold down V on your keyboard and you'll see this little circle pop up, and then you can snap it to any vertex that you want. And now I'm just going to do the same thing here on the back. I've got 3 edges down here and I've got 3 edges up here, so this should work out. I'm just going to extrude it twice, straight up, and then a second time straight up. And I'm just going to snap the verts into place. Oh. There we go. So doing this, I know that all of my outside vertexes are going to be in the right location, but these 2 interior verts here that I didn't snap to anything, they're probably going to need to be modified a little bit. So I'm just going to pull those in and hopefully try and get a good contour there. Now the next thing we need to do is worry about this middle window, and I'd had to put in an extra edge loop here to create kind of my wheel well here, or my fender. So I'm going to have to do the same thing on the top. So I'm just going to come over to here and click on my insert edge loop tool, and I'm just going to insert an extra edge up here on the top. So with that, now I've got 3 edges down here at the bottom, and I've got 3 edges at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and extrude those twice, pull them up. And the same thing as before, I'm just going to snap everything into place. And then with these 2 verts, probably going to have to move them in. And just try to keep the same contour. So it's really hard to do in the perspective view. For a lot of people, it'll be easier to come in and just try to get this shape in the front view first, and then make sure everything looks okay in the side view. And then make sure in the perspective view, in the top view, everything just looks okay. So we've got that, and we've kind of filled in all the windows now. So now what we can do is actually come in and start to create the windows. And in order to do that, and I'm going to stop probably after maybe just a couple of these, but you grab the faces that create the window, and the same thing as we've done a lot of times, we just extrude them in. And with every extrude you make, you're going to have to create new geometry, or you're going to have to move the geometry around a little bit. So what I've done, I'm just going to come in and kind of move these around. And now we should have kind of the shell of the window that we want. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to grab this window, and really cheaply, I'm just going to extrude it and just pull it in just a little bit with my extrude tool. And if I do that same thing on every group of windows, so extrude it, scale it in, extrude it, and then push it back. Again, you're not pushing it back far, right? You're not pulling it all the way into the car. You just want to push it in just a little bit. And then the same thing on this back window. Extrude it in, and then push it back just a little. Alright, so you get that. And then you'll see, once you come to look at your car, you'll have a pretty effective window look. You don't want to smooth it like that, but it's a pretty decent window look. You might want to come in and just kind of scale them down, the interiors a little bit more. Give you a little bit cleaner line around them. And then you've got your window. You don't want to do the front or the back on that yet. You want to wait until you actually combine the car to do the front window and the back window. But for the most part here, you've got a shell with some really basic windows, wheel coverings. You can repeat this process for kind of the front and back bumpers if you want, but only after you've actually connected the car. So that's all for this video. We'll pick up on the next video and work with kind of detailing your front of your car and maybe looking at getting into the lights if we can.